It has, of course, as Gnome says, finished West Ham United 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 2. For West Ham, 2 points dropped as we attempt to remain in that pack-chasing European spot. The first goal of the day scored in the final minute of the first half. Break on the left. Ended up at the feet of Mopé, who fired home from just 8 yards out to give Brighton a half-time lead. The Hammers came from behind to score on the hour mark, where Ben Johnston scored his first senior goal after some good work on the right flank by Yarmolenko, and also a prone Lanzini on the floor inside the 6-yard box. And Brighton retook the lead, and as we say, in the most controversial of circumstances, 20 minutes from the end of full-time when Dunk scored, even though there was quite clearly an arm used in the build-up to the goal, but VAR decided that it wasn't sufficient to rule it out, so the goal stood. And then West Ham coming from behind for a second time to take a point, the minimum, really, that we would have expected from this game, as a Cresswell corner was deflected off of Dunk onto Souček's head, and an unmarked Souček's head, who scored to make it 2-2 and earn a point for West Ham. Immediate post-match thoughts from the team here. We'll start with Rio today. Rio, we desperately wanted a win to, keep up with the teams above us. In the end, we've had to settle for a point.
Yeah, no, I just think the way we sat in the first half was incredibly negative. It wasn't fitting the way that we've been playing so well all season, I hate to say it and hate to keep banging the drum. When Mark Noble plays alongside Declan Rice and Thomas Souček, it always has a dynamic. You can play 2 out of the 3. You cannot play all 3 together. And that first half was probably their worst performance of the season, I think.
Yeah.
We couldn't string 3 passes together. We had no attacking impetus whatsoever.
No shots.
Changes come at half time. And, Lanzini, who's chomping at the bit, and for my money, should have started in the central midfield role in the attacking space behind the strikers. Right? He completely transformed us. And the change was there for everyone to see. We were sloppy everywhere, though, wasn't we? The first half was abysmal. We had delivery into the box until Souček's equaliser was equally shocking throughout the game, And this is where we thrived part of the season. Now, was it 8 or 9 goals we scored from set pieces this season?
Yeah, that might be 10 now, yeah.
Yeah, 10 now. But for something that we've been really strong at, it was absolutely shocking today, completely throughout the game. I still thought at the end that we might nick it. From where we was and that performance in the first half, you got to take the point. You've got to be happy with it. But that is not where we should be. I think it's poor set from the start, poor game management of the players on the pitch. Someone should take responsibility and try and alter the dynamics themselves. If the thing the manager's not saying isn't working, we've got enough seasoned pros there to go and say, hang on, I'll take the game by the scruff of the neck. I'll change things. I'll make things work. And no one wanted to step up and do that. And, not happy, but point's a point, We're still not beaten Brighton home since their return to the Premiership. They're still not home since 1983 in the top flight.
Is that 7 games now, wasn't it? Was it 3 draws and 3 defeats? I think
it's now 4 draws, 3 defeats since their return this time round. But we're not beaten at home in the top flight since 1983.
Well, if that isn't indicative of where West Ham are as a club in the last few years, then I don't know what is. Can go out and get some big results against big teams, but failing against teams you'd expect to beat. And I think, Pinkie, Brighton were a team we expected to beat today. Going into the game just 1 point above the drop zone, not playing well at all, only 2 wins all season, and yet we've had to come from behind. Now, once again, West Ham have come from behind. I'm trying to think of the positives, so I suppose that is something. But overall, disappointed?
Massively so. One of the things we tend to do as supporters, I guess all club supporters do it, you look down your fixture list and you go against those teams, you would be fortunate to get anything, but against these teams, you'd expect to get something. And that's not arrogance. It's just based on the balance of where you think your club are relative to other clubs.
Yep.
Today, we're facing a Brighton Hove Albion team. They haven't got a huge amount of depth either. And they're sitting below us in the league table. We're playing at home. And so you'd think that we should have had the edge going into at the start of the game. But the first half was the worst 45 minutes from West Ham United that I've seen in this calendar year. No question about it. We were lethargic. We were slow. The tempo of the game was glacial. Slow of movement, slow of thought, slow to pass the ball. It was just poor football in the first half. And I take Rio's point about the midfield trio and all the rest of it. But ultimately, can anyone think of a single West Ham United player who played well in the first half? A single one? And that's really what we're left looking at. Then half time, the manager's made the change, but I suspect he's also dished out a few choice words in the dressing room. And we've come out and suddenly we look like Brazil 1970. We suddenly look at a team that wants to attack. And the big difference for me, Cresswell got forward an awful lot more.
Yep.
And if you look at all the stats this season, the number of balls he plays in from deep into the box, that is our main attacking threat in open play. And, in the first half, he just wasn't at it at all. He got forward a bit more in the second half, but it was just the attitude changed at half time. And I just wonder, without setting too many hairs running, if, dare I say it, the players might know who the best starting 11 is. And I've got to be, no, I don't have to be cautious here. We're just chewing the fat. I wonder if the players are happy with Noble not in the team. I'll come out and say it, because that was not a happy ship in the opening 45. And you're not going to find a bigger fan of Noble than me in our supporter base. But we don't seem to be a happy ship when he's on the field at the minute. And I just wonder, a lot of the positivity we've had this season when he hasn't been in the team, and since he's got back in the team, there's a little bit of, shall we say, not quite the same zest about our play. And you hear all sorts of whispers, and maybe, just maybe, his time has come now at the club. And that's a great shame if that is what's going on, because I don't think he deserves that. But it's almost as if there's like a changing of the guard quite naturally earlier in the season, and for the manager to have to go back to, dare I call it, the previous regime. Maybe one or two of the players see that as a retrograde step, and they'd be happy moving forward. So, we got the point. I don't think we deserve more than a point, because whilst we clearly won the second half, for want of a better phrase, in the first half, we just didn't do anything. And as the home team, the onus is on us to actually make the play. So ultimately, I'd rather take a point than none, but be in no doubt that's 2 points dropped at home.
Okay.
That's 2 points dropped.
Thank you, Pinkie. No, Rio called it an incredibly negative setup. And Pinkie continued that theme by suggesting that it was the worst 45 minutes West Ham have produced this calendar year. How much flack does David Moyes have to take for his tactical approach today and putting out that particular starting 11?
It was a negative starting 11. It was purely set up to sit back and try and play on the break. To play on the break, you need pace. You need things to be delivered quickly. And God bless him, Noble. He's not the player that you want in there where you need the ball moved forward quickly. He'll automatically, if he's actually playing, normally he's playing a bit deeper, but he'll put his foot on it and be looking what the safe option is, rather than having a look forward to see if there's anything that might sort of cause consternation in the opposition defence. the changes at halftime immediately showed more in attacking intent.
Yeah.
I think against Brighton, that's the sort of side we should have lined up with to start with.
Okay. So in your view, there is some, flack to be aimed at Moyes for.
Yeah, I think it was the wrong side for the match.
Okay.
We were making things happen in the second half.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get onto the refereeing, but that changed the whole dynamic of the game. But we'll leave that. But the point being is, if we'd started out the first half like we started the second, then we might have been comfortably ahead, or at least ahead, because we'd have actually shown something in attack. We didn't. So we're already up against it by half time.
Yeah. Yeah. But even the I mean, we've made the suggestion there that David Moyes is partly at fault for that particularly negative setup. But Pinkie made the point in the first half, knowing that at the end of the day, there's still 11 players out there on the pitch, and I don't think it's particularly biased to look at the two sets of teams and say that West Ham probably had the better quality players out there. Why didn't they perform today in that first half? And I think we're all in agreement. It was an absolutely dreadful first half.
Yeah.
Pinkie said it was the worst he'd seen this year. For me, it was up there with the first half against Newcastle. I mean, it was awful. So,
yeah.
What happened? What went wrong?
We get back to. I mean, I'm afraid it does come back to the selection. Yes, we got 11 players out there, but excuse me. If you look, you've got Rice, you've got Souček, you've got Noble. None of whom are primarily attack-minded. Bowen is sort of playing, I don't know if you had him as a striker or a sort of one behind the striker, but Bowen had an off day. So the one of those four, if you like, that had attacking intent wasn't having a good day. And you've got three players. Rice's job, he gets in, he breaks it up, he pushes forward, brings other players in. Souček, something similar, but he'll go and join the attack a bit more than Rice does. Yeah. I'm sorry, this is not criticism of the man as a man or anything like that, but I couldn't see what Mark Noble either last week against Chelsea or this week was supposed to be bringing to the affairs, because if he was playing behind a front 1.5, 2, if you like, he wasn't contributing to an attack. So you've got, if you like, if you count Bowen as a midfielder, and I realise that formations these days are slightly flexible and all that, but you've got 4 midfield players there. One is naturally an attacker, attacking midfielder. You've got 3 are naturally slightly more defensively minded. It's kind of no surprise that, you needed one of those 3 to really, really, really change the game they've been playing, in Noble's case, for the last 20 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And Noble was I'm afraid in that particular lineup, in that particular position that they've got him playing, he's a square peg in a round hole.
Okay.
So, and it showed.
Okay. All right. Okay. Fair enough. So a little bit of criticism from the team, for the manager, and some for the players as well. And just one of those days when everything kind of combined in the wrong sort of way, really. But one thing that you can't legislate for in the changing room or before the game on the, on the training field is a dodgy VAR call. And we've seen 1 or 2 of those this season. And yet again, the game has hinged, today's result has hinged on a very, very controversial call by the team at Stockley Park. Now, of course, the incident I'm referring to is the dunk goal on 70 minutes. It's 1-1. The ball comes over, it's a corner. Dunk's arm is across him, sort of like this, and the ball clearly cannons off his elbow. I think we all, Gnome saw it initially live. The rest of us sort of caught up and had a look at the replay, and we were all in agreement, and we were all kind of think, fairly certain that the goal was going to be ruled out. Oh no, we were quite wrong. Wasn't the case at all. It was allowed to stand. But yet again, here we are at the end of a game, and VAR has cost, it's not just West Ham. Let's not think it's only us who gets affected by these decisions. But yet again, a game and the outcome of a game has been determined by a VAR call that you just can't, you just can't make sense of. Pinkie, it's about half hour now. We were all sitting here at the time looking at it and thinking, why is it not been given? And Gnome, I'm sure that they'll be discussing this on the TV. So I don't know if you can perhaps keep an eye on that for us. And
I was keeping an eye on it, but because Sky basically expect everybody to want to watch Liverpool warming up for half an hour, they've actually gone straight over to Anfield.
Okay, so we're not going to find out then. We won't know what.
I've retuned. What they often do is they have the manager's reaction on Sky Sports News.
Right.
So I've retuned over to that.
Okay.
If it's on anywhere else, if somebody can channel up and let me know, perhaps.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Well, we're not going to know. We're not going to hear Carragher and Neville and the team.
But I mean, they had a very quick discussion about it, and Redknapp was saying, well, in a way, the rule's bizarre, but and we need common sense. But as it stands, that shouldn't have counted.
Okay, so we have the players and the experts, I guess you'd say, as opposed to us enthusiastic amateurs, agreeing then that it should have stood. So that's the TV people believing it shouldn't have stood. That's us lot here believing it shouldn't have stood. Well. So I guess that's pretty much everyone. Pinkie, who's looking at that thinking it's no goal. What's happened? Try and make sense of that if you can for us, Pinkie, because it's cost West Ham 2 points ultimately.
This is straightforward. I mean, first, let's park the paranoia. It isn't just us that get affected by this. It's all clubs except Liverpool. But that really doesn't need to be repeated because we all know that. So we all get impacted. For me, I'm firmly in the camp of get rid of it because, firstly, there's subjectivity as to when it is used. It's used on offsides. It's used, in theory, on handballs. Is it used at every single corner kick where there are repeated fouls committed by defensive teams jostling attacking players? No, it's not, because matches would finish 17-16 with 30 penalties every game. So firstly, that's the subjectivity of when it's used. Then you've got the subjectivity of the competence of the officials using it. And actually, if you had the same incident and you had 3 different Stockley Parks, so if you had almost like boxing judges when they're scoring a fight and they're counting the number of punches that have been landed, you very rarely get exactly the same scores. And I'm just willing to bet if you had 3 completely independent Stockley Parks and said, right, you're all seeing the same footage. So you've got an official, independent, he's sealed off from the world, and he's just looking at the same angles as the other 2. Whether or not you'd get 3 all saying, oh, that's okay, or 3 saying, no, that's not okay, or you get a 2-1. Because that, to me, you'd know absolutely then how much of it is based on opinion and how much of it is based on so-called fact that the VAR technology is supposed to be there to provide. And so if they want to prove that it's a system that works, I'd like to see that system where you've got 3 totally separate, unconnected booths where the ref can just say, yes, right decision, or no, the wrong decision. And if they're all unanimous, and they get it right week after week, then I'll say, okay, we'll stick with VAR. But I suspect that would never be the case.
Yeah.
And therefore, for me, the subjectivity of the people viewing it is in question. And the final point is the capability of the technology. And there was a lot of discussion a year ago about the frame speed in certain incidents in terms of what they're actually watching.
Yeah.
And I think there was enough anecdotal evidence, certainly, that actually the cameras just weren't quick enough in terms of what they were recording. So you've got 3 grey areas there, to me, that says it's not a system that is foolproof. And if it's not foolproof, why are we bothering with it? Because as you've pointed out, it is determining the outcome. It's determining the outcome today. We believe that's the case. The officials in Stockley Park disagree, but if there were 2 Stockley Parks, would both officials agree? If there were 3, would they agree? And I don't think they would. So for my money, get rid of VAR, because then you're back to just one question. Do you believe in the integrity of the match officials, yes or no? If it's a no, then you've got the wrong officials. If it's a yes, yeah, that you believe they're being honest, then you then say it's only a game and the match officials are doing the best they can honestly. But this idea that we can use technology to prove empirically that the right outcome has been achieved is utter bunk. It's nonsense. And we've seen it again today, and we'll see it again many times before the end of the season, whether we're West Ham United supporters or supporters of lesser clubs. You know, it's not a system that's working. And I think it's probably a problem in particular in English football because of the way we play the game in this country compared with, say, Germany or France or Italy or Spain. I think the pace of the game in our league generally, the physicality in our league generally is such that I don't think VAR is up to the job. I'll get rid of the damn thing because, you know, it's not foolproof. And worse than that, if you're actually at a game, the whole point is you want to cheer a goal or you want to go, no, when you let one in. That's the whole point of it. When you can't actually do either of those things because you're waiting on some bloke in a porter cap from 200 miles away to give his verdict, it kind of removes the joy. You know, it's like, it's just, you know, it's a passion killer.
Yeah,
that's the only way I can describe it. It's a passion killer. You know, and it's not doing what the authorities thought it was going to do. And for my money, just get rid of the damn thing.
There you go. VAR, the footballing equivalent of a condom, perhaps you could argue. Well, one question I would like to put to you, Pinkie. I mean, on VAR, and I think the point is today, if VAR hadn't have existed, then there would have been no question that the goal would have been given, and perhaps we would have all been sitting here ruining the fact that there wasn't some sort of mechanism in place to check incidents like that. But I'm just wondering that. Would it perhaps help if we knew exactly why that decision had been made? So, for example, there was an audio feed in the way perhaps that they do in cricket and rugby, whereas the umpire or the referee or the adjudicator at Stockley Park would explain why they reached the decision they had. Because we're all sitting here thinking we've been robbed, but it could be the case that there was a very, very good reason why the guys at Stockley Park felt the goal should have stood. So in your opinion, would that change it at all? Or is it just for you a no-no completely?
Well, for me, it's a no-no because I'll go back to one of my other points, is the subjective use of it. Would they be explaining why at every single corner kick, why there hasn't been a penalty awarded for the dozen or so fouls that get committed by defensive teams at every single corner kick? And to me, you either use it to referee the game totally, or you don't use it at all. What we've got is a set of match officials now who are getting decisions made on their behalf. I can't imagine that's going to improve their long-term decision making. And the comparisons with other sports, you know, cricket, you know, a few of us are huge cricket fans. We've seen technology work very well in cricket. We've seen the way that they've applied the technology work very well in cricket. But there was a run out in the Boxing Day test in Australia yesterday, where I think it was Tim Payne, who was, you know, they've got every kind of microscope under the sun on it. Was his bat over the crease before the bails were broken in a run out opportunity? And therefore, even in a game where the technology is deemed to have been a success, it isn't answering every single question every time. I just think the nature of football is such that I don't think VAR's got any place in it. And I accept your point that, yeah, well, the Brighton goal would have stood today. Absolutely. And you know what? If I knew any Brighton fans, which thankfully I don't, but if I did, and if I was ever allowed in a pub again, which I can't see happening anytime soon, I could have an argument with the Brighton fan and they'll be laughing and we'd all shake hands at the end of the night and all the rest of it. And they'd go, just read your paper tomorrow, son, because it will show it was a goal. I can put up with that because I've had that for 50 years. I haven't got some idiot in a caravan saying, oh no, I've definitely viewed the footage and that's definitely okay. When I've not seen anything Sky put up here this afternoon to suggest otherwise, that we're wrong and the officials have got it right. So to me, VAR is not doing what they thought it was going to do.
Yeah.
And just get rid of it.
Okay.
Could I step in on the cricket and rugby points you've raised there, Pinkie? There is one significant difference between referees in professional football and cricket umpires and indeed rugby officials to a certain degree, is that when they're using technology, you have every confidence that the decision that will come out of it will have been made in the interest and in the best attempt to come to the right decision. And that's the only concern they've got. And if that means overturning a mistake by an umpire or a rugby referee, then they'll say, no, you got that wrong, mate. And they'll say, fair enough, not out. It was, it pitched outside leg. And he'll turn around quite happily. I got it wrong. Do the old thing. Play on. Now, the issue that we've got here is that you've got the same people who are on the pitch one day running VAR in Stockley Park, who, and you mentioned subjectivity, they have a natural inclination to try and back up. It's their mate out there. So if he's allowed a goal, well, am I going to disallow this, whether or not it's disallowed, unless I really, really have to? If I can find a way, to take today's one, if I can find a way to allow that goal, I will. And I'll say I'm not sure that hit his arm or whatever. And it's a consequence of the fact that the refereeing organisation runs itself. You've got referees are basically running themselves. Quite contrary to FIFA rules and setup, the FA should be responsible for refereeing, and they should actually be sort of independent and over the top of that. We got PGMOL, which is the FA have got a share in, Premier League have got a share in, and it's basically referees are left to run it for themselves. The one group with a vested interest in saying everything's hunky dory are the guys in charge of it all.
Okay.
So it's no wonder that if it's going to somebody at Stockley Park, I don't know about you, I've got no confidence that decision is going to be taken first and foremost to come to the right decision as to what's happened.
Okay.
Because
No, I'm going to jump in there because I want to stick, if we can, to today's decision.
Sure.
Because I don't think anyone's really. We all have our own thoughts in mind about VAR, but let's come back to today and talk about that. What possible reason can you see for VAR taking a couple of minutes to look at that incident today and saying, yes, the goal should stand? Rio, I'll come to you in just a second, buddy. Did you want to jump in there?
The only reason that was not disallowed today was because it's Christmas. It's a season of goodwill to all men. There's no fathomable excuse to not give it. I mean, it was first. It was the tug of the shirt,
Yeah, of course. We haven't even mentioned that yet.
And I don't doubt the Etch-a-Sketch crew at the Stockley Park were even bothered looking at that part. Yeah. It was a blatant handball.
Yeah.
Right. This is not the subject for me to discuss, because all I've got in my thoughts about VAR is negativity and the ability to take the rinse out of it. So, it's a season of goodwill to all men, unless you support West Ham. Right, let someone else with a sensible point of view take over now, because that's it.
Well, I think you're offering us as good an
question.
excuse as any of us could, Rio, for the reason, because as I said, we none of us have got any idea, Pinkie, why that.
But here's the thing. Clearly, the people watching it thought it didn't come off his arm. That can be the only conceivable reason.
Yeah.
And if they have that opinion, that can only be for one of two reasons. Either their eyesight isn't quite up to the job, or the technology isn't quite good enough to show it that it absolutely 1,000,000,000% certain came off his arm. Just the fact that we're all convinced ourselves we saw it.
Yeah.
The referee's sitting there in his bunker in Stockley Park might sit there saying, no, it's not as conclusive as all that. Which is why my sort of madcap theory of, well, why not have 3 Stockley Parks? They all get shown the same footage for the same duration, and they all cast a vote, and you go with the majority decision. Because at least that way, you might get 3 straight consistent decisions. You might get a 2-1, but at least you know that there is still some doubt in it somewhere. But this idea that what is currently being served up as a definitive, never get it wrong solution is just poppycock. It's nonsense. And
Absolutely.
Boxing matches get determined by majority decisions.
Yeah, I was just going to say that actually, you get that system in boxing, obviously, don't you, with the 3 judges, and you have a majority decision or whatever. But no, Rio's rightly pointed out. I mean, we haven't even mentioned the shirt tug on Hilaire that preceded the handball. Neither given, neither taken into account.
Yeah, which is again even more obvious. I mean, perhaps he's so busy looking for the handball and trying not to see it that he's missed the sort of grab of the shot. I don't know. You say what possible reason could he have had for not giving that as handball? I cannot tell you. Because it's ball's come up, it's hit him initially, admittedly on the hip, it's come up, but it's flicked off there, and it's plain, clear, and obvious. Why isn't somebody out there saying, "Well, I've looked at it, I don't think it hit him," and we're showing it to you now. If you're not seeing it now, Pinkie said, is it because he's not up to the job? Well, clearly yes, because we see this sort of thing week in, week out. So I cannot give you a reason why that was allowed to go.
I think we're going to only have to assume, Gnome, that we are all particularly biased as we are, and for some reason, I mean, we're missing something collectively.
They showed it again, and I mean, I was looking at the BBC feed, which has quotes from whoever's doing the commentary on the radio. Don Hutchison was the co-commentator, and when there was the pause, Don Hutchison was saying, stuff along the lines of, well, it's an incredibly harsh rule, but there has been, it has benefited from it coming off his arm, and then when the thing came up and said goal, no handball, Don Hutchison's first words was, wow. I've got David Moyes now. Do you want to come back to me?
We shall do that. We should do that. Let me move on to Rio if I can, because I wanted. Rio was the one who pointed out the shirt pull, and you're looking at that incident, Rio, and you're thinking, forget the handball, forget or the elbow, whatever it was. But looking at that in isolation, you'd think that action on Hilaire in its own would be enough to rule the goal out, would it not? And so two incidents overlooked there by the match officials, and I don't know. It's very, very strange. Very, very strange.
We've seen numerous instances this season where people have been given penalties by going down because they've had their shirt marginally tugged.
We have.
Right. That was a handful. That was like, he was basically trying to rip it off his back. So how they can't see that instance in the first passage of play, as you say, forget the handball bit, because it was clearly handball. There's no question about that. All you have to do is go back 5 or 10 frames, and he's got a grasp of his shirt, and he's absolutely dragged him to the deck hard.
So Is there an element, perhaps, Rio, that if it's the other way round, if the tables are turned and it's a defender tugging a striker's shirt, that is deemed more permissible as a foul than perhaps the other way round, and if it's a striker tugging a defender, because that's what we've got here, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a bit of a lashback to last season where they were trying to find every single conceivable way of disallowing goals. Now they're trying to find every single conceivable way of allowing them. No, it's gone from one extreme to the other. I mean, I think this year, we've seen the increase in the amount of goals scored. Everyone's laying the blame at, there's no crowd get on backs and things like that. There's also the factor of VAR being. They know they made a lot of mistakes last season, but instead of trying to find a balance and getting people to look at it from different angles and looking at it properly, they're now going from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
And allowing everything, right? It's an entertainment business. Yeah, I get that. But you've got to strike a balance. You've got to get it right, you know?
But
you're going to lose customers, lose people watching the game by introducing more unfathomable results and outcomes than you are by trying to think the right word here. It's ineptness, you know, it's biased ineptness. You're going from one extreme last year where let's disallow everything to this year, let's give as much as possible, you know. The people in charge are not looking at this from a fan's point of view, you know. They're not looking at A, of the flow of the game, A, of the passion, B, of the passion of the game, and C, what people actually want. What people actually want is fairness, and you're not getting it on either manner. Like I say, it's been one extreme to the other this year, and both have not worked.
You said there that football is an entertainment business, and that makes me think, who exactly is being entertained by VAR? Is it because obviously if you've got, you know, if you've got an investment in that particular match, you know, you don't really get entertained by it. It's more frustrating than anything. Are the neutrals entertained? I mean, who's it benefiting?
The people getting entertained by it are the TV companies who are supplying the millions and billions of pounds that keep the game flowing at the moment.
Okay.
The more talking points they have, the more people they can get involved and get engrossed in little incidents like that, where, like we saw today, there were 2 clear instances where that goal should have been disallowed.
Yep.
They can fill the X amount of hours they have 24/7 with talking points discussing these kind of things, as we are doing now.
Okay.
But we're more reasoned and we're more sensible than they are. They're just filling up airtime for the sake of it. We're filling up airtime because, let's face it, the 4 people here, know a damn sight more than the Sky TV people who are running the business and pumping the millions of pounds in it. All they care about is the Asian market, the foreign market. They don't care about the man on the street. They care about filling airtime. Football fills airtime, and that's all they care about.
Well, it's certainly filled ours for the last 20, 25 minutes or so, because that's all we've been talking about. We, you know, as we said, we should be sitting here talking about a football match and, you know, an entertaining game, I guess, if you from a neutral perspective. 4 goals, West Ham coming from behind twice to earn a point, and yet here we are just sitting here talking about, you know, a couple of very odd decisions. I mean, and let's be honest, when it's always been talking points, but I think it comes back to what Pinkie's saying, is that if it's spur of the moment, if it's something that, as in today's example, the referee might possibly have missed, maybe because he's got a poor angle, he can't see the boy's being shielded by another player. You accept that these things happen. It's part and parcel of the game. But this is the issue, isn't it, with VAR, is that it's not anymore. It's such a clinical business where they are taking the time to look at it very closely from all angles, or it should be all angles. We know that they don't even have cameras on the touchline, as we discovered against Man United a couple of weeks ago in another bizarre VAR decision. And that's the issue, isn't it? I think really that, you know, Pinkie said you can go in the pub with the opposition fans, you can laugh about it if you've been wronged, but, you know, I think the sense of injustice is even greater with VAR than it would have been before. And I've always been a big advocate of VAR. I've always maintained that the system is inherently sound. It's just the interpretation that's the issue. But I'm beginning to sway, I've got to say now, with the things I've seen this season. But anyway, we could go on about VAR all night, and we have done many times in the preceding weeks and months. But we're going to move on now. Gnome is going to talk to us about David Moyes. Rio is going to tell us what the KUMB Forum is doing, and Pinkie's going to do the same for the Brighton North. Is it North Stand, North End chat? One of
North Stand chat, yeah.
North Stand chat. We'll come to Gnome first of all, because Gnome's been listening to David Moyes' post-match interview. Was Moyes as aggrieved as we are, Gnome, by what he's seen today, or was he quite happy with the point at the end of it?
He was happy with the word resilience was used several times. The reason for the team selection was that he was hoping that the team that he put out would play basically a bit more like the team that he put out in the second half, but clearly that wasn't the situation. So he said the substitutions were required. He was pleased with the substitutions. On the handball, he said, well, it's incredibly harsh when they're disallowed, but that's the laws of the game, and unless they've changed it, then that goal should not have stood. And it's been he didn't dwell on it, which so it was a very short interview, but he was very pleased with the resilience, the fact that we came behind from being behind twice, and he was pleased with the point, but slightly it was a slight aggrievement of the goal, and it wasn't a very long interview, so
okay.
Not really much to say there. I would just say that the injustice you mentioned just before we do move on, is heightened by the fact that yes, it's incredibly harsh when that sort of thing happens if you have a goal disallowed, but they never seem to find any problem in disallowing our goals when it's happened, and that's where the injustice lies. Okay, it's harsh on him, but it was harsh on us the other way. Antonio, Rice, we've seen that a lot in the last sort of.
Well,
so
Bowen last week, of course. I mean, we haven't even mentioned that the incident against Chelsea where we felt the goal should have stood. But
they've got Potter on at the moment. If you want to stay with me, Potter's disappointed not to take 3 points. Performance-wise, he said there's lots of, as the teletext stopped, lots of things gave us reason to think there could be 3 points. What was the key to losing the points? We didn't defend the corner for the second goal, and those are the details that get you punished. We need to do more. We need to do better. Maybe we could have kept the ball better in the second half. It's an allusion to the way West Ham were playing. We felt relatively comfortable, just disappointing not to get all 3.
Okay.
Just saying. Thought we were the better team in the first half. We deserved to be ahead. Not too many chances. Well, I'm not sure, but we deserve to be 1 up. We played it. We played into the second half a bit, but we could have been smarter. In the end, we got the goal back on ahead. Probably could have managed the situation better, but apart from the second goal. He said, I don't celebrate goals until they've been checked. You never know. But he hasn't commented on whether he thought it was a goal.
Okay, that's interesting. That's usually quite telling, isn't it, in itself?
Yeah. We're frustrated we haven't won because I thought the performance was good enough to get all 3 points. We're probably closer to getting all 3, but that doesn't matter. You need to earn it and do it. So we're going to keep going and stick with the positives. We have to keep working. Just talking about the absence of Lamptey there, and they've cut the interview off. So there you go.
Okay.
Hang on. Yeah, Lamptey's days or weeks, you would have think so. And I suspect you don't want me to talk about the World Darts Championship, so I'm not going to.
Well, it might be marginally more interesting than the first half we all sat through this afternoon, I would imagine. But there you go. Just quickly on the stats. We haven't looked at those yet in the post-match summary. West Ham 43% possession overall to Brighton's 57. West Ham 11 shots in the end to Brighton's 13. Both sides provided 4 shots on target each. West Ham with 5 corners to Brighton's 4. West Ham committing 6 fouls to Brighton's 7. And XG stats, West Ham 1.38 to Brighton's 1.51. So both teams, I guess, doing marginally better than the stats suggested they should have done with the opportunities afforded to either team in front of goal. Rio, KUMB.com forum match thread. What are the natives saying? Are they happy about West Ham coming back to snatch a point, or still berating Moyes for that tactical, or that lineup that began the game?
No, from an early count-up of 6 pages before the game started, we had the backlash over the team selection for 7 pages. We're now up to 46 pages, and there's not a lot of love in the air. It's Christmas, lads. Come on. The one positive I will point out is Bryant 4114 is put Souček really has entirely changed our fortunes as a club.
Yeah.
The goals, the Rice partnership, the defensive capability, the set pieces. I've no idea where we'd be without him. And that he is a massive shining light. One of the highlights of probably our entire year since he joined us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's not a lot of love going around elsewhere. How the Dogs put the first half will live in the memory for all the wrong reasons. Easily one of the worst things I've ever seen on the football pitch. 2-2 is a good result against the side near the bottom? Nah. If Noble starts the next game, my TV goes off instantly. Burnley Hammer. Thank God it's all over with. I can get back to enjoying Christmas now. And that's about as positive as it gets, to be honest. Doubles 1966. Poor first half. Second half, okay. Brighton get their customary dodgy handball goal. Really pleased with Johnston, and Souček deserved his goal. I thought I seen an Arsenal Noble on a West Ham shirt prior to Monday. Surely it's sunk in now. For a game and a half, the match has passed him by when the other lot have had the ball. Or he's just got his in the way when we have. It's borderline cruel watching him now. Yeah, I can carry on, mate. I've got another 15 pages worth of vitriolic and bitchy comments coming.
That's an interesting point. Brighton's equaliser last year had exactly the same thing, wasn't it? Murray handled it.
Exactly, yeah.
And
yeah, it is.
VAR looked at it and then said, oh, yeah, it did touch his hand. Let's call it a goal, you know.
So, yeah, so to be fair, actually, someone made that point on the YouTube chat. Without scrolling back up, I can't recall who it was, but yeah, that was pointed out that it's the second time in successive, home contests we've been done by a dodgy goal from Brighton. But yeah, so Rio, all pretty despondent really from the West Ham contingent tonight.
Yeah, I'll carry on with a couple more comments here. Clark and Bell has put, that was as bad as anything we've seen in the last couple of seasons. The first half was absolute gash. Truly appalling team selection. You'd have thought we were picking a team to play the bin tippers of City. While he's been a great servant to the club, anyone who thinks Noble can still cut at this level is absolutely blind. I'm not even sure he gets a game against Stockport in the Cup. The simple fact now, he's at the point where he makes everyone else play worse. We didn't have crossing boots on at all. The only decent ball Cresswell managed to put in was the corner that Souček scored from. The only good things were Johnston getting a well-taken first goal and Lanzini running the show in the second half. He was easily the best player in the park. Profit marginal, but I always think a point is a result if we concede first. The way West Ham team under Pellegrini would not have come back twice. Johnson's first goal sounded like a well-taken strike. It's good to see Souček paying back his transfer fee double week time. That's 8 career goals for us over two half seasons. Impressive for midfield. Noble is a sub, surely from now on, not a starter. And there is a lot of comments about Mark Noble's contribution, not only today, but in the coming weeks, the coming months. His contract's up in the summer. There's a lot of debate on there about whether he should be extended, forced to retire, forced to move into the coaching setup.
Yeah.
I know he's one of Pinkie's favourite ever players. He's one of most people's favourite ever players, but the cruel fact is that because the modern game is analysed and watching by every single minute, every single second is analysed over and over again, when the deficiencies start creeping in, people get kind of called out. And Mark's banging the phone line at the moment. I have to say that I think he disrupts our play. I think he's not an asset in the first team when we play in the style that we do. Under Pellegrini, we were trying to play a bit more patient, a bit more build up from the back. Yeah, he had a role. At the moment, where we're trying to play a more counter-attacking, intuitive, quick, flow, fast-flowing game, he doesn't suit us at all. And I'm sad to say that I think Mark's time in the first team surely has got to come to an end incredibly soon.
There you go. I mean, the bell does, of course, toll for us all eventually, and lots of people feeling that that time has come for the skipper, Mark Noble. Well, we shall see. We're going to move over briefly to the Brighton forums just to see what the Seagulls fans are thinking about their team's result today. You'd think, you know, if you'd had if you had offered it to them at the start of the game, Pinkie, that most Brighton fans would have taken a 2-2 draw and a point from the London Olympic Stadium. Is that the case?
Yeah, there's a few of their supporters have made that very point on the North Stand chat this afternoon. But a chapess called Hoof-Hearted has put an interesting comment in. He said, I don't think West Ham are that much better than Brighton. There's only one manager going for the win towards the end, and only one who will be fighting relegation. And that's not a coincidence. I'm not Potter out, but his subs are far too negative and often come too late. And by then are forced changes. That could have been written exactly for David Moyes by any number of our supporters on the KUMB forum. So dare I say it's an off-quoted opinion for managers in the wrong part of the table or whose teams aren't quite doing what the supporters would like. Generally speaking, I'd say they're actually quite balanced on North Stand chat. Actually, none of them are going on about being robbed of 3 points. A couple of them think they could have taken 3 points, but in general terms, I'd say they're reasonably balanced in their views. So I don't think you're going to have too many juicy nuggets for the opposition view this time around, Graham. But just to pick up on a few of the points they've been discussing, I think our problems go way beyond VAR, and as disappointed as we are with tonight's result, had that Brighton goal not stood and we'd picked up all 3 points, it would just paper over some very obvious cracks.
Yeah.
And the obvious cracks to me tonight were he's starting with 33-year-old Mark Noble in what was his 511th appearance for West Ham United. But he's having to start him because he's probably of a mindset that goes, if I can keep it tight for the first half and bring on my match winners in the second half, that ought to be enough tonight. He's also started Jared Bowen, who was found short of gas at the crucial moment at the end of the first half when he should have been tracking back, that left Vlad the Lad woefully exposed, and therefore his lack of legs, and he's played a lot of minutes this season, Bowen, exposed us. And again, I just wonder if he's another player that if the manager felt he had more options on the bench, might have been given a rest today. As it is, the manager chose to leave out Pablo Fornals for the game today. Again, another player that's done an awful lot of miles for us this season. And for me, yes, VAR let us down today, but I think ultimately it's the thinness and balance of our squad that is letting the manager down. I don't really want to call out individual players and say this player played badly or this player's had it and all the rest of it. Yeah, I'm sure if Mark Noble was the fifth contributor on this chat right now, he would actually be saying I shouldn't be starting games in the Premier League. He'd tell you that. He's an honest professional. Okay, the fact that he's having to, I think sends a message to the whole team, whereby they also go out there going, we're going backwards here, not forwards. The manager's having to go backwards in terms of selection thought process, not forwards. Where was the young up and coming player for David Moyes to chuck on at the start and say, do you know what? well done, son, you've earned a place in the first team. You're starting this week. He can't do that because he doesn't have that player on his books. Instead, he turns to his tried and trusty old captain. And I'm afraid, if there's something we know about the Premier League, if you don't invest every single window, you go backwards. And we've already seen the chairman telling us, there's no money to spend and blah, all the usual rubbish we put up with every single window.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, there's your result tonight, Mr. Chairman. A knackered Gerard Bowen doesn't track back and we concede a goal. An aging Mark Noble hasn't got the legs to compete, and we create nothing in the first half. These are the real issues. VAR is a bit of a sideshow.
Yeah,
It's the lack of depth in the squad, the lack of options to the manager, and I'm afraid, even with or without VAR, they're the things we've got to tackle because, for my money, Brighton weren't great today, and we couldn't put them to bed. And that's a real worry. So, good news, Declan. We're going to build the team around you, and we'll be comfortable mid-table for the rest of your career. Just sign here, please, young man. Not happening, is it?
Well, we shall of course see. But the rumours persist as they have done every transfer we know for the last couple of years now that Declan Rice is going to be on his way soon. The club say no, he's not going anywhere. Those that know him say he's died in the war, West Ham, and as we know, as Pinkie, of course, and Rio and Gnome will know, as regular away visitors, his family are often in the away end on the road. But of course, we shall see, and he is an absolutely vital cog, and especially with, as Rio has said, and the others that with Mark Noble going off the boil. If we were to lose Declan Rice as well, it would be well, you just wonder where it would leave West Ham. We are going to end today's broadcast on a positive note, however. It hasn't been the best match and certainly wasn't the best result we could have hoped for, but there were some shining lights out there today. I'm thinking particularly of a couple of players. Firstly, Manuel Lanzini, not been in the side at all on a regular basis since he's returned from that horrific injury a couple of seasons ago that prevented him from playing in the World Cup. But today came into the side at a difficult time. West Ham trailing 1-0 and helped turn it around, produced a really good performance as he did the other night as well. And also a word for young Ben Johnston's come in, took his goal with aplomb, I believe would be the correct description. His first senior goal of his West Ham career, the first of many, we hope. So, Gnome, just a few words to end, if you will, on Lanzini and Johnston and their performances today.
Yeah, as you've taken all the best lines away there. You said it all. Like, the introduction of Lanzini, as I said at the time, was a player whose total mindset was, when he got the ball, was attacking intent. Excuse me. That may have been the case with Bowen. That might have been what he was thinking, but he was really not at the races today, an off day. So the introduction of Lanzini meant we had a player who not only wanted to be attacking, but was actually capable of doing it and making things happen. As I say, he was really he changed the whole flow of the game. And Johnston, I think having Lanzini along up there also helped out Johnston a bit, insofar as that Johnston then had someone ahead of him or alongside in the middle there that he could lay the ball off to keep the attacking flow going, which a lot of the time wasn't. Whether by accident or design, Cresswell didn't show much as an attacking force in the first half. Second half, different story. And having Cresswell sort of joining the attack helped Johnston immeasurably. There was good sort of overlap play between them, and it sort of bodes well really because okay, Johnston doesn't do the same sort of thing as Masuaku does, but even in the first half when he was really getting no support out wide, there were 2 or 3 times he wanted to take on the fullback and had that, he'd obviously been told go and do half this role, get up and down that line, And it just proved that if you've got the support to do that, then you'll shine. And chuffed for him as we all are, an academy dad getting the first senior goal. It's you always get a nice warm glow from that. And as I say, those two were probably the standout players. I'd probably give man of the match, if we're going to have one, to Lanzini, because without him, we weren't going to draw that game, or never mind win it. Mm-hmm. With him, all things being equal, we might have gone on to win. So, if we're having a man of the match, Lanzini just shades it for me, even though he's only on for half the game.
Okay, good. Yeah, we didn't get that far, did we? As for a man of the match award. So thank you for reminding me there, Gnome. Rio, Lanzini and Johnston, your thoughts on those two today?
Yeah, I completely agree with Gnome with Lanzini. For me, man of the match, because he came on and he changed our side completely. I was saying, just as Buddy Brighton scored the second goal, that him coming on allowed, when all three, like Souček, Noble and Rice, play together, it's so congested in midfield that it didn't allow Aaron Cresswell to step up and play that he has been. Because there are times when he's almost like quarterback-like in terms of the way he delivers the ball and helps augment the attack. As soon as that change was made at half-time, not only did Ben Johnston flourish, as I said in the first half, he wasn't there to. We didn't allow him, the way we set up, didn't allow him to play. Not only did he flourish, so did Aaron Cresswell a little bit. It was great to see Manuel back. As alluded to, since that injury, he's been a shadow of his former self. Today, I think it was probably his best performance since then. He looked lively. He had a point to prove, and it's the first time he's actually dictated the game in almost 2 years. Mm-hmm. He's come on and actually changed the dynamic of our team, allowed to flourish, and he should have started really. Ben Johnston, we all want to see a young youth academy prospect flourish, and the way he took the goal was incredibly positive and mature. I mean, it was a great finish with the keeper bearing down him like that. He looked so composed. The way he took it was amazing to see. And I hope he gets more game time. With Arthur out the side, we need someone who can step into his role and kind of allow us to play in a setup that has been so successful for us over the start of the season. Since Arthur's been gone, we have suffered big time. If Ben can come in and do that, playing in the right system with the right midfield alongside him and in front of him, there's no reason that we don't have another exciting young prospect on our books. He suffered a lot of injury problems himself. So to see him come in, finally get his first goal, stamp his authority in the second half, because he made some really good runs down left-hand side in that second half. It was a joy to see. So although Manuel gets the man of the match for me, I'm really glad to see Ben Johnston do what he did today.
Smashing. Thank you, Rio. And finally, Pinkie, Manuel Lanzini, both the guys have already said he was their man of the match. Would you go along with that? And also your thoughts on young Ben Johnston and a fantastic first senior goal?
Yeah, I'll take him in reverse order. I mean, Johnston, terrific composure to take his goal. We've all seen good seasoned pros fail to take that kind of opportunity with monotonous regularity. So for him to actually keep calm, pick the spot, place the ball, I thought was terrific. So very, very pleased for him. Thought as well as general play in the second half, he linked up really well with Cresswell, a lot of good interchange between the two of them. And that I felt was actually because Rice and Souček were actually getting much further forward and could actually bring the ball with them. So, we were playing the game in the right half of the field. So Johnston gets a positive from me today. Manuel Lanzini, he did exactly what the manager would have wanted him to do, which is, I'm sticking you on to change the game. And he did. Do I think he's back to his absolute best? I think I'd want more evidence than we saw today. But do I think he's a player worth persevering now? Yes, I do. And certainly on the evidence of what we saw today, I'd certainly be picking him ahead of Mark Noble for the next game. Let's put it that way. So that's a positive for Lanzini, a positive for young Johnston. But they really were the only two bright spots of a torrid afternoon for West Ham United. And for my money, 2 points dropped, and we've just now got to go and beat Southampton. No ifs or buts. Results against them in recent seasons haven't been all that bad, but we've got to go into that game with a positive mindset, and I'll be looking for David Moyes to actually pick a team that says this is the team that's going to win. Yeah, not a team that's going to hang on for a draw. It's a team that's going to go and win, because we need it. We need it. Mid-table, who wants to be there?
Thank you, Pinkie. It is, of course, a mid-table affair that faces West Ham next. West Ham in 10th, travel to Southampton, who are currently 3 points ahead of the Hammers on 25 points in 9th place in the table. West Ham, as Pinkie also said, have done fairly well down in St Mary's in recent seasons. So we'll be hoping for something a little bit more than this afternoon. Of course, after that, we travel to Everton, and then it's Stockport in the Cup. 3 away games in succession for West Ham United. That is it for today. That is it from the team here at Eyes Up Mother Brown. We do hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you for sharing the afternoon with us. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite as enjoyable as we'd hoped it had been. West Ham 2, Brighton and Hove Albion 2. West Ham coming from behind twice to take a point at the London Olympic Stadium and remain in 10th place. My thanks go to my team here, as always, Gnome, to Rio, and to the Pink Palermo. Thank you all for your wisdom and learned comments this afternoon, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure, as always. Also to our viewers, everyone joining us live on the YouTube stream, and also to those of you populating the Knees Up Mother Brown forum and the match thread throughout the day. Of course, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so, and then you can be notified every time we go live and don't have to wait for me to put a message up 2 minutes before kickoff, belatedly telling you that we're on air. Final word this afternoon. It's going to go to a friend of ours. We've received the unfortunate news yesterday that the Newham Recorders, Dave Evans, had sadly passed away long before his time. Dave was a friend of KUMB's and a good friend to myself and Gordon when we were attending the press conferences at the bowling ground. Dave was always very helpful to us at KUMB. Always had a good word to say and a smile, and we will all miss him terribly, I think. And my condolences and those of all of us at Knees Up Mother Brown to Dave's family at this very difficult time, and especially to lose someone, at this time of year. So thanks, Dave. Thanks for everything you did for us over the years, and it's much appreciated. That's it for today. We'll see you all again very soon, and